The series begins with a group of individuals from the Fire Clan chasing a person from the Earth Clan, trying to kill him. The person uses his power to protect himself, managing to summon rocks from the ground and throw them towards the firebenders. They in turn use their fire power to try to burn him. The man falls to the ground but doesn't die, and it turns out that someone from his clan comes to rescue him. However, the man refuses to go with him and gives him a message stating that the king of the Fire Clan is planning a major war and asks him to deliver this message to the king of the Earth Clan. Then the man continues fighting the Fire Clan members, but due to their numbers they manage to capture him and take him to their king. It is revealed that the king intended to let the man know about the war so he could inform his clan, thus all the tribes would be waiting to see what happens to the Earth Clan. However, the truth is that the Fire Clan king plans to annihilate the Air Clan because they pose the biggest threat to him. Then the king grabs the man's hand and burns. We then learn that there are 4 clans living on Earth: water, air, earth, and fire, and each clan can control the element its name represents, except for one person who can control all 4 elements, the Avatar. When they die, their spirit moves to another body to be reborn each time. The Avatar comes from a different clan, and this time it is the Air Clan's turn, but so far this person has not appeared. We learn that this person can create balance in the world because all the clans fear him. Therefore, the Fire Clan decides to exterminate the entire Air Clan. In the Air Clan, we see a child named Aang who is 12 years old and very talented to the extent that he has earned the title of Master at this age and has the tattoo that distinguishes the Master from the student. Not all members of the clan possess supernatural powers, but only a small group has these talents called the Bender, whose duty is to protect their clan. The rest of the tribe members who don't have these talents are required to continuously train in martial arts to protect themselves under any circumstances. On this day, Aang's master is upset with him for not attending his training, as Aang feels his level is higher than all students his age, which is why he doesn't benefit from attending and decides not to. His master asks him to help the people with the preparations for the new festival, which includes all members of the Air Clan from around the world, and they are expected to arrive the next day. Afterward, Aang's master is summoned to the council that includes the king of the Air Clan and his ministers. The king suspects that Aang is the Avatar and wants to inform him of this so he can start training to deal with the other elements. However, Aang's master objects, believing they should wait because Aang is still a child. The king argues, pointing out that the Fire Clan is preparing for an imminent attack and that no one but the Avatar can stand against them. The master decides to take Aang to a quiet place to talk and tells him that he is the awaited Avatar. Aang is shocked, feeling a great responsibility, too great for him, especially since he is still a child. He fears leaving his village to go to specific places for training, afraid of leaving his family and friends behind. His master comforts him, saying he believes Aang is capable of handling the responsibility because he is a special and kind person. We learn that every member of the clan has a special animal, a large creature capable of flying. Aang takes his animal named Appa to fly away from their village. At the same time, the Fire Clan attacks the village, intending to kill all members of the Air Clan. The king and the ministers try to defend the village and its inhabitants but fail. Aang's master takes the children to a distant place to protect them, but the Fire Clan reaches them. However, the master manages to defeat many of them with his expertise in using his power. The Fire King has to intervene personally, engaging in a chase with the master and eventually burning him. In the other scene, Aang notices a sudden change in the weather and feels something is wrong, deciding to return to the village. However, due to bad weather, he and Appa fall into the sea and drowns. The next scene shows 100 years later, and we see a girl named Kara, the last remaining member of her family who has the ability to control water. However, the rest of the tribe does not possess this talent, so Kara finds no one to train her. She returns to the rest of the tribe members, where we are shown that her brother Sokka is responsible for protecting the tribe. He takes Kara with him on the boat to fish, but the water is unstable that day. It takes their boat and throws them at an iceberg, then flings their boat far away. Kara tries to pull it back using her power but fails, showing she still can't control her ability well. By accident, she breaks a chunk of ice near them to reveal the Avatar Aang. Kara then takes Aang to a certain place so he can watch her practice. Aang gives her a series of tips on maintaining her internal energy balance, allowing her to use her power effectively for the first time. Suddenly, they see a ship approaching them. Realizing they are under attack, Kara runs to inform Sokka and they prepare to defend their village, puzzled about why the Fire Nation is visiting them at such a time. Gran reveals that they have come to capture Aang because he is the Avatar. Everyone is shocked, especially Sokka, who wants to hand him over to protect their village. However, Kara pleads with him not to, reminding him of their people's principle to protect anyone in need. Sokka is moved and changes his decision. Kara decides to take Aang away to hide him while Sokka goes to speak with Zuko and his men. Zuko says he has come to capture the Avatar and will not leave without Aang, Sokka, and Zuko to a duel which Zuko easily wins, nearly killing Sokka. Suddenly Aang intervenes using his power to knock everyone to the ground. Zuko then orders his men to burn the village. Aang agrees to go with them in exchange for the village's safety, leaving Kara worried but unable to intervene. Sokka, feeling sympathetic, passes the responsibility of protecting the village to someone else and decides with Kara to rescue Aang. On the other side, Aang is imprisoned in a cell inside the ship. As they head towards the Fire King, it's the first time Uncle Iroh meets a, justifying his clan's actions by saying they want to unify the world, claiming their intentions aren't about killing. They believe capturing the Avatar will allow them to unify the world. Iroh then leaves and Aang, using his powers, steals the keys from a guard to escape his cell. While exploring the ship, Aang finds Zuko's room and his journals discussing every Avatar he's heard about. Deciding to take the journals, Aang then goes to the ship's deck and flies away to escape. Zuko and his men shoot fire at him, breaking the device Aang was using, leaving him nearly falling to his death. However, Kara and Sokka arrive just in time with Appa to rescue Aang, taking him away from danger. The three of them start thinking about a safe place to go, deciding to look for a location other than their village. Aang asks them to take him to his village, where he begins to relive his childhood memories. He is deeply affected, especially when he sees the village completely deserted and all his favorite places destroyed. He is even more devastated when he finds the skeletal remains of his teacher. At that moment, his anger intensifies and the Turf Ing power of the Avatar emerges, causing everything around them to shake, frightening Kara and Sokka. Aang gets lost in memories with his teacher, remembering how he was told he was kind and would be able to save the world. This calms Aang down, returning him to his normal state. Overwhelmed, Aang collapses and Kara runs to comfort him. Once calmed, he decides to train in the other elements to avenge his clan and use his power to save the world. Aang contemplates a new location to visit, eventually deciding to go to the last village where the previous Avatar had lived. Aang decides to bury his teacher's body before they leave. The trio then heads to the village where the last Avatar lived, where they find a statue erected in his honor. As they stand before the statue, a group of guards captures them. They try to explain that they are not enemies and that Aang is the new Avatar, seeking anything that could help him learn from the previous Avatar's experience. However, no one believes them until a white light emanates from the statue, signaling Aang as the Avatar. They are then taken to their leader, who allows them to stay for only 48 hours before they leave. The leader's daughter Sukiai is asked to show them where they will be staying, taking them on a tour of the village. Aang sits in front of the statue, attempting to communicate with the previous Avatar. Suddenly, light emits from the statue. Aang merges with the light. Aang is transported to a strange place where he meets the female Avatar, who begins to share her experience with him. She tells him he must learn to control all four elements to save the world. At that moment, the village's alarm bell rings, signaling an attack by the Fire Nation led by Zuko. Despite Kara's efforts to awaken Aang from his trance, she fails. The village leader speaks with the Fire Nation troops, denying any interaction with Aang, but Commander Shao doesn't believe her and orders a search. Sokka, using the techniques he learned, tries fighting the Fire Nation. However, the Fire Nation troops outnumber them, making defeat seem inevitable until the previous Avatar intervenes at Aang's request, easily defeating the Fire Nation soldiers. The trio then sets off to a new destination. Meanwhile, Zuko instructs Commander Shao not to disclose any information about the Avatar's appearance until they capture him. But Shao agrees, only to betray Zuko's trust by writing a detailed report to the Fire Nation King about the incident. Fire Lord Oi learns that the Avatar has reappeared after receiving a letter from Commander Shao. He is pleased to hear that Zuko is pursuing the Avatar and expresses pride in his son. The trio arrives at the Earth Kingdom, heavily guarded to the point where every incoming vehicle is searched. Kara devises a plan and convinces a passing trader to take them in his vehicle, pretending Kara is his wife and the others are his family, which convinces the guards to let them in. Once in the city's market, they thank the trader and part ways. During their tour, a huge explosion occurs and Aang and Kara use their powers to protect the city from the fire's impact. They encounter a teenager named Teo who uses a wheelchair and soon meet his father, the Mechanist, who thanks them for saving his son's life and invites them home. Aang reveals he is the Avatar and offers his help. The Mechanist plans Sokka offers his assistance. Meanwhile, Kara exits the house and sees the Mechanist handing something to a mysterious person. Feeling something is amiss, she then encounters the traitor who helped them enter the city. Learning his name is Jet, who informs her that the mysterious person is a Fire Nation spy and the Mechanist is collaborating with them, relaying all the news. Shocked, Kara wants to warn her friends but decides to join forces with Jet to stop the spy. Following him to a remote area, the spy was aware of their presence and lured them to a location where some of his allies were waiting. Jet intervenes as well and his team, leading to a battle between the two groups. Jet and his team manage to defeat the Fire Nation spies. Afterwards, Kara talks with Jet, who reveals his tribe's location, where she learns that most of them are orphans who lost their families in wars against the Fire Nation. Jet explains that the Earth King has lost hope and ceased fighting, prompting them to take on the responsibility of protecting the tribe. Meanwhile, Aang and Teo leave to gather tools for their fight against the spies and find equipment used in the explosion near Jet's clothing. Aang concludes that Jet, not the spies, was responsible for the previous explosion. He returns home without Teo to inform Sokka and Kara of his discovery. However, Kara, having developed an admiration for Jet, refuses to believe Aang, insisting instead that the Mechanist is the spy. Frustrated by their disbelief, she leaves to meet Jet, only to discover that he indeed is behind the schemes and plans a new mission, knowing the Mechanist is meeting the Earth King. To add to the plot, Zuko and Iroh are waiting for them disguised to enter the city unnoticed. Aang chooses to confront them alone, urging Sokka and Kara to save the Earth King. Iroh instructs Zuko not to use fire to keep their identity secret, but Zuko, unable to defend himself without his power, uses fire, causing panic and leading the city guards to capture Iroh and Aang, but Zuko manages to escape. Sokka and Kara reach the Earth King's palace and see the Mechanist about to greet the king. One of Jet's men prepares to shoot an arrow at the bag to detonate the bomb, but Kara uses her powers to stop the arrow, successfully thwarting the plan. Aang is detained in a solitary cell with Iroh in the adjacent one. Aang tries to call out to the guards, insisting he's innocent. Kara interrupts after learning in the market that Aang has been captured and is being held in the king's palace. The Mechanist mentions the only way in is through tunnels but advises against it, as no one who entered has ever returned. Despite the risks, they decide to proceed to save Aang. Meanwhile, Iroh is transferred to a forced labor camp for war prisoners, while Aang is taken to meet the king, who turns out to be an old friend from his childhood. Kara prepares to enter the tunnels and is confronted by Jet, who tries to persuade her to join him. When she refuses, Jet attempts to stop her by force, but Kara uses her power to freeze him in place. Zuko disguises himself as a guard to enter the palace's dungeon. Discovering Iroh has been taken to another prison and decides to rescue him. Before searching for Iroh on his way to the new prison, is tortured by guards seeking revenge for their families killed by the Fire Nation. One guard who lost his brother almost kills Iroh but is stopped by the others. Iroh empathizes with the guard, reflecting on his own loss during the wars initiated by his brother's decisions. Zuko reaches Iroh and frees. Kara and Sokka reach the tunnels, where they encounter people who warn them about the shifting paths against entering. Ignoring the warnings, they proceed but soon realize the tunnel paths keep changing, leaving them feeling lost. Suddenly, Kara and Sokka encounter a terrifying beast. They run in the opposite direction until they reach a dead end. Kara approaches the beast and discovers it's blind, relying on its senses, and gets agitated by fear, so she attempts to calm it down and persuasively asks it to lead them to the palace, and surprisingly the beast agrees. The king decides to test Aang and to determine if he's ready to be the Avatar. The king uses his power to hurl stones at it from all directions, putting it under pressure since he has never dealt with the earth element before. Despite his tension, Aang manages to fend off the rocks, but the task proves extremely difficult. Kara and Sokka arrive to assist him, prompting the king to mock Aang for winning with his friend's help. The Fire Nation is planning an attack on the city, however the king is not worried, having been well prepared. The Mechanist appears, revealing he had been informing the king about the spy activities and the Fire Nation's attack plans. Zuko and Iroh manage to escape the city, reaching their ship where Iroh's wound is treated. They begin to plot their next move in pursuing on the Aang. Aang feels guilty again for not being able to stop the Fire Nation's atrocities despite being the only one capable. Kara comforts him, expressing her firm belief that one day he will be able to confront and defeat them. Meanwhile, Sokka notices a young girl watching them from a distance who seems scared and runs away. The trio follows her to a village where the locals initially suspect them of being from the Fire Nation but soon realize they are peaceful. A villager shares that strange events have been occurring in the forest, like crops withering, animals dying, and anyone entering The forest disappearing, including his son, the trio volunteers to enter the forest to solve the mystery themselves. They arrive at a place resembling a graveyard with peculiar statues shaped like bears. Aang decides to communicate with one of the statues using the same rituals he performed when he connected with the previous avatar. Kara and Sokka watch from afar as Aang's spirit, surprisingly followed by their spirits, leaves their bodies. They encounter a giant owl-like creature which only Aang can hear. They encounter a beast which starts chasing Kara. Sokka, protective of her, throws a rock at it, angering the beast and causing it to throw Sokka away. Kara enters a strange area where she experiences hallucinations, imagining herself back in her tribe and seeing her deceased mother. Sokka also hallucinates returning to his village, witnessing his family discussing his inability to fulfill the responsibility of protecting the villagers, causing him to break down. Aang tries searching for Sokka and Kara until he reaches the same place and begins experiencing his own hallucinations. He sees his mentor, which deeply moves him, and the mentor encourages him to continue on his path, urging him to wake up and save his friends from the place before anything harmful happens. Aang is deeply affected by this and manages to awaken from the hallucinatory state, but his friend's spirits remain lost in the forest. Unable to escape the hallucinations, Aang speaks with Appa, asking him to guard their bodies while he goes to free their spirits. Aang travels to the Fire Nation's headquarters, intending to communicate with their avatar statue for guidance on saving his friends. Detected by Fire Nation soldiers, Aang flees but is helped by a dissenting soldier who takes him to the statue and protects him while he performs the rituals. The Fire Nation avatar reveals the only way to free Aang's friends is to negotiate with the forest's evil spirit, offering a specific statue the spirit has long suffered. Aang wakes, takes the statue, and finds the soldiers paralyzed, conscious but immobile. A mysterious girl then kidnaps Aang, intending to trade him for a reward from the king. Zuko and Iroh arrive, offering a larger reward to take on Commander Shao. At odds with Zuko, decides to capture Zuko for disobeying the king's orders. Zuko contemplates fighting but realizes the odds are against him. Shao plans to imprison Aang in the Fire Nation's jail until the king arrives. Zuko considers intercepting them but is reminded by Iroh of his banishment and the danger of approaching the soldiers. Meanwhile, Aang, now in his cell, is focused solely on rescuing his friends in the forest. Commander Shao assures him they won't kill him due to the Avatar's reincarnation cycle. Aang is terrified by their intentions until a mysterious masked figure familiar with the prison layout stealthily enters Aang's cell and frees him. Despite Aang's initial fear of the masked figure, he decides to follow, seeing no other option. When Commander Shao realizes he has escaped, he sounds the alarm and a large number of soldiers quickly gather to chase Aang and the masked person. They manage to kill the soldiers by Aang creating a storm to obscure their escape. It's revealed the masked man was Zuko. Zuko wakes up at night and thanks Aang for saving him. They start talking and Zuko shares that his father exiled him, demanding he capture the new avatar as a condition for forgiveness and to be named heir. Aang is moved by Zuko's story, growing sympathetic towards him and helps him escape to reunite with Iroh. Aang returns to the forest and reunites with Appa, who has been guarding Kara and Sokka. Aang performs the same rituals to meet the beast he saw earlier. After giving the statue to the beast, it agrees to return his friends and all the lost spirits in the forest. Aang and his friends arrive at a new city inhabited by a water tribe. On the way, Aang has a vision of the city being attacked, his first vision of this kind, making him anxious. They meet the tribe's leader, who is aware of the Fire Nation's impending attack but remains calm, believing there's no need to fear with the Avatar present. However, when asked about his plan, Aang admitted he's still in training and came to learn not to fight, causing concern among the leaders who had heard he could easily defeat the Fire Nation. Kara meets the village's healer to learn healing skills, excited to learn combat skills as well, but is shocked to find out women are not allowed to fight, only to heal. Aang visits the statue of the last Water Tribe avatar, hoping for assistance against the Fire Nation attack, but as the avatar refused to help, showing him the scars from Fire Nation injuries and advises to face them alone. Soon the Fire Nation ship arrives, led by Commander Zhi Shao and accompanied by Uncle Iroh, signaling the start of their plan to attack the city. On the other side, we see Azula arguing with her father Oi because he refuses to let her participate in wars, wanting her to train more. Determined to prove her superiority, Azula demonstrates her advanced skills, impressing Oye to the point where he considers making her his heir. Meanwhile, Kara enters a duel with the tribe's leader to prove her combat skills and her right to participate in the war. Despite being defeated, the tribe is amazed by her, especially since she's the first woman to challenge their leader. Impressed by her abilities, they asked her to be responsible for their training, making Kara proud of herself. Soon after, they learned that a water tribe ship has arrived. Aang decides to use a different approach this time by attacking the ship before its crew can reach them. Aang, Kara, and Sokka jump onto the ship where Aang attacks Sokka and destroys the radio equipment, and then they sabotage the ship and escape, feeling very proud of themselves. Until they see a fleet of Fire Nation ships heading towards the island intent on destroying the tribe. They quickly return to the city to warn the tribe. The leader, the Fire Nation, manages to breach the walls. Surprisingly, Zuko is revealed to be alive, having escaped the boat before the explosion. The Fire Nation attacks the tribe. The leader is initially hesitant to let Kara and the other women fight, but eventually agrees due to the severity of the attack. The leader's daughter also decides to fight, making her father, who sees her as his heir, particularly worried for her safety. He asks Sokka to protect her during the war, and Sokka, having a crush on her, assures him of her safety. The war continues into the night, and Shao decides to send the balloon into the island, thinking it would go unnoticed. However, Sokka and the leader's daughter spotted, ready to take action against the approaching threat. Zuko manages to reach Aang, hoping to resolve the situation peacefully, and asks Aang to come with him. Kara intervenes, refusing to let Aang go, and uses her power to encase Zuko in ice. Meanwhile, the Water Tribe leader controls the lake that powers the villagers, causing Aang to fear for their safety. He offers to surrender to Shao in exchange for the villagers' safety. Shao claims he's not afraid of Aang, dismissing him as a weak avatar who knows nothing of war. Shao then kills the spirit controlling the lake, draining the villagers of their power and breaching the city's walls, preparing for the fleet to invade. Kara, weakened by the events, loses control over Zuko, who escapes. The Fire Nation then begins to destroy the city, leaving Aang watching helplessly. Recalling his encounters with previous avatars, feeling a surge of anger and fear of history repeating itself, Aang's tattoos and eyes glow as he merges with the vengeful spirit of the ocean. In his weakened state, Aang transforms into a monstrous entity, devastating anything in his path, causing the Fire Nation soldiers to flee in terror. Aang focuses on destroying the Fire Nation fleet until he hears Katara's pleading voice urging him to return to them. Moved by her words, Aang regains control of himself. It's revealed that the tribal leader daughter sacrificed herself to weaken the ocean spirit's power, allowing Aang to regain consciousness and return to his body. They reward Aang with a necklace for his bravery. However, Aang feels troubled for not being able to protect all the citizens. Kara and Sokka console him, assuring him that he did more than was expected. Kara promises to stay by his side until he completes his training.